Well, good morning. Hey, it is the day after Thanksgiving as I'm sitting in my office, and so I trust that you had a good day with family and friends yesterday, and that you wake up today refreshed for either work or shopping or whatever will fill your day. We were able to meet again this Wednesday night, a couple days ago, and I ended up sending an email out kind of repenting of my initial plan of us covering 2 weeks of material during the week that I was away. I think that was a positive decision for many in our class who, like me, were gone to Boise a lot of last week. And so we are picking up the pace again. We had a good conversation about the next section of reading in Mathis's book, Habits of Grace, and we covered chapters 3 through 8 together and talked about the encouragement that he gives us, not only in Bible reading, but also in prayer and in meditating on the scriptures and in applying them to our lives, and in recognizing that God has called us to be the kind of people who are lifelong learners. It's just one of those axioms that I have always held to in life, is that leaders must be readers. And so thank you for the work you're putting in reading along with our class. For this next week, I'm asking everyone to read chapters 9 through 14. It's a little more than 50 pages. It'll take us to page 163, but that will allow us to finish the book in 2 weeks from now. And that's kind of the goal that I wanted us to have, as we will move on to another short book to read before our first 6 weeks together is wrapped up. Our focus this week is one that I was excited about, and is to work on what does it mean for you and I to lead ourselves well by using the tool of setting personal goals. You may be the kind of person that is naturally goal-oriented, and maybe you've often in life set benchmarks ahead, looked ahead and said, this is where I want to be when I get to that point, and that's how you've lived your life. Others of us, maybe it's not so much of a habit, but for me, it is a joy for us to think together. And so I want to give you a challenge. It's a little bit of it's a 2-page handout that I had with a number of points, but it's really just intended to function as a conversation for us. And so let's see if I can get this going. Yes. And then I need to move myself up here. Very good. And so our third session, the focus is going to be on what it means for us to set personal goals and to develop them. This is a skill that I think is going to be a help to you in general in your Christian life. We need to work on self-control, and one of the tools of self-control in life has a lot to do with the personal discipline of recognizing what are the things that I intend to grow and live out in my life. Paul said it this way in 1 Timothy 4. He said, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. He recognized that it took a disciplined act for godliness to take root in his own life. We also know that in 1 Corinthians 9, Paul said, do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Therefore, I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and I make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. There is an image in Scripture of a driven, leadership, which is the focus of our initial foray in this leadership class. What does it mean to lead ourselves? And so as we lean into these, we are going to talk together about what it will mean for us to write and develop goals. Here's the first thought that I shared. A goal is not a goal if it's not written down. So many people will say that they're goal-oriented. They will say they have benefits. But if you ask them today, hey, tell me some of your goals, and then you ask them again in a couple weeks, you might hear very different things. And to me, that's an indicator that they probably aren't truly pursuing certain goals. A goal that is not written down is more likely a wish or a good intention, an aspiration, a bit of wishful thinking. And the challenge of writing them down makes them concrete and real in such a way that we're held accountable to them. Most people fear commitment. Christians fear commitment because it represents in their life something that now can be a potential area of failure for them. And so the benefit of writing them down is it's a form of commitment. And I truly believe this, in a great way in life, we become what we're committed to. Written goals will help by charting a course for your life. And so when you write goals, and we'll talk about that as the weeks go forward, I want to encourage you by writing down, I will something. I will. These are commitments of our heart of things that we want to become. Number 2, a written down goal demonstrates commitment. A written down goal becomes something that you can read every day. And a faithful person is someone who is faithful and makes commitments. They're the kind of person that those around them are glad to follow. They feel secure with them. And if you are self-controlled, then you will do well in most aspects of life. But the demonstration of writing down goals is a way of demonstrating or showing your commitment. It takes it out of the realm of fuzzy thinking and makes it more concrete and therefore more easily committed to. Number 3, a written down goal can be reviewed often. And I love this. Reviewing goals is something that will be an exercise that will help you become more committed. There's an obscure verse in the Old Testament in Habakkuk chapter 2, and in that verse, the scriptures say this, write the vision, record it on tablets, that the one who reads it may run. I love that verse. A vision was had, and the instructions were write that vision, record it on tablets, so that others may read it and run. When you and I learn to write down our dreams, our goals, the things we're pursuing, others can read them, and others can know how to support us and help us grow. And it's a facet of accountability that comes with vision. The more you review your goals, the more likely it is that you'll have them memorized, and they will put a gentle pressure on you to make progress in your goals. In class last night, we were talking about the fact that there are aircraft carriers, which are these massive ships with flat decks on top where planes, usually military planes, will land and take off from. And because having a stable landing platform is so vital, those aircraft carriers will have gyroscopes put down into the bottom of the ship so that if the sea is in any way rough, those gyroscopes will keep that ship flat on the water, even if the sea is tossing and turning. It provides a correction to those outside pressures. And the power that is generated by those gyroscopes is tremendous power. If it were not there, planes couldn't land in rough seas on an aircraft carrier. And what happens is that's what happens when something is continually reviewed in our minds. It's like a gyroscope that keeps us level and moving forward and on track. And that's why having them written down is so helpful. It's that discipline of meditation and repetition that works its fruit in our lives. We've memorized Joshua 1:8, and it says, meditate on it day and night. Say it over and over again. That's regarding the words of God, but it will also be something that can be helpful in your areas of personal goals. Because when you repeat your goals over and over again, you are programming yourself. And you're going to make choices based on those goals, and you're going to have temptations to not pursue the goals. But the more that you review them and the more that you repeat them, the more you will be aided in staying on track. Number 4, a goal that is reviewed at least weekly is 10,000 times more likely to be accomplished. That is called hyperbole. That's exaggeration. But the point is this: the probability of accomplishing goals is greatly enhanced when they are reviewed on a regular basis. And so one of the things that we will do in this class as we develop our goals is I'm going to ask you to review them weekly to help keep yourself on track. Number 5, a written down goal can be shared with a friend to hold you accountable. That's the beauty of having them written down. It's a way of charting a course and saying, this is who I want to become. This is what I want to pursue. This is the kind of life I want to live. And I'm open not only to chart it for myself, but then can be a tool that you can share with someone else to help hold you accountable to them. Number 6, goals that we are lovingly but firmly held accountable to will move us toward great accomplishments. And again, the reason is because we become what we are committed to. Goals have that way of creating in our lives the kind of accountability that will help us to accomplish them, to move forward in the things that we are pursuing. Number 7, a good goal is specific and measurable with times, dates, and numbers. This is the very nature of what good goals look like. A good goal isn't I want to lose weight. A good goal is I want to lose 5 pounds a month over the next 5 months. And I will be 25 pounds lighter than I am today. And today my weight is whatever it is. And by the end of 5 months, I want to be down to whatever it is today minus 25. A specific, measurable, that kind of goal is very helpful. Sometimes we make goals that says I want to be more disciplined or more charitable, or I want to invest more time with my family, but without those details of being specific and measurable with times, dates, and numbers, it's easy for us to skate on goals. And so those things will help you. As you develop goals, I'm going to encourage you to have times and dates and numbers attached to them. Number 8, the more specific and measurable a goal is, the more motivational it will be. How do you know if you're making progress? If you're not measuring it. And so as we measure our goals and as we move forward, those become things that are helpful. I have been a member of Weight Watchers. I've been over the last year working on dropping weight, and I've lost some weight. Well, one of the cool things about Weight Watchers is every week you go in, you step on a scale. It's private. It's just you and the worker behind they don't even tell you what you weigh, but you hand them your phone and it gets scanned into your app, and you can go sit down and see the specific progress that week has held. When you have a week when you've lost a couple pounds, yay, that is an awesome week. When you have a week where you've really been disciplined and sacrificed and you step on the scale and you haven't lost anything, those are discouraging weeks. Sometimes the scale will do that. Sometimes you're not disciplined. You come in and you're up a little bit. And so the more specific and measurable the goal is, the more motivational it will be, just like having those weeks when you drop a few pounds in your program. Number 9, a good goal is achievable. There's a lot of talk out there about having goals be huge, big BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. I want to change the world in the next 6 months or something like that. And while I don't want to discourage people from having big goals, I would say that having incremental goals is probably more helpful to us. Something that is achievable in a proper amount of time. I was working with a group of Scout leaders in September and helping them, in one of the pieces of the materials that we went through with them had each of them developing 5 what they call ticket items, which are basically 5 goal areas. And one Scoutmaster from Eastern Oregon that was in my group, he said, I want to have a goal of growing my troop by 10% this year. And I said, that's great. That's specific, and it's measurable, and it has times, dates, and numbers. I said, but I realized afterwards, I thought, I don't think he has a very big Boy Scout troop. I said to him one time, how many boys do you have in your unit? He said, I have 4. And I thought back to his goal of growing by 10%, and I said to him, Mike, I don't think 10% is the number that you're looking for. And he was pushing back pretty hard on me. No, I want that to be my number. I said, I don't, if you have 4 kids and you grow by 1, you have grown by 25. I don't think 10% growth is possible. Like, if you grow at all, you're going to massively exceed that goal. He said, I know, I just wanted to feel really good when I overshot my goal. And while good goals should be achievable, they ought to be also the kind of goals that are not too easily accomplished. So achievable is good. Just don't make them too achievable. Number 10, unrealistic goals demotivate us and tend to make us goal shy. If the Scoutmaster said, I want to grow my unit by 20 boys this year, that might not be realistic for him. And not hitting it could be a detraction or a deterrent. So have goals that are attainable, that are within reach, but ought to also represent growth. Number 11, a good goal is challenging. Challenge yourself to do a little more, but don't go too far with it. Work for progress. Try to grow in such a way that is appropriately motivational, that is not out of reach, but that will challenge you to grow progressively stronger in some area of life. Number 12, a challenging goal moves us gently but firmly out of our comfort zone to great growth and accomplishment. I love that. A challenging goal will move us gently but firmly. And that's, most of us need to be pushed a little bit, get out of our comfort zone, do things that are not normal. Those are the kinds of outcomes that goals can have for us. Number 13, a purpose of goals is to apply gentle pressure to ourselves. And I love that. The Greek word for gentle is the word prautes, which means strength under control. And that's what we want. We want to apply gentle pressure, strength under control. We don't want to punish ourselves with goals, but we want to apply enough pressure to get us to move. Number 14, a good goal is noble. And by that, I mean a goal that has purposes beyond yourself. And, we will, for example, in the next 6-week session after the first of the year, when we're talking about leading in our families, I'm going to have you write some goals for family at that time. This first 6 weeks, we're talking about leading ourselves. I want you to develop goals that have to do with encouraging you and growing you as an individual. But having a purpose beyond ourselves is important, whether it be in friendships or in work life or in family life, or as we'll talk about in the spring when we talk about leading in the church, ministry life. Those are the kinds of goals that are good. They're noble, they're godly goals. A noble goal moves us to Christ likeness and pleases God. It works on our character. It causes us to grow. It helps us to take stock of our weaknesses and our flaws and to say, I want to do better in these areas. And so I want to grow in my Christ likeness by pursuing good and godly goals. Number 16, success is accomplishing the goals that God has led us to set for His glory and our growth. And we recognize that that is the goal, that we would grow. And that goal setting would be a tool to help us grow, that we would lead ourselves by setting an agenda for the future. And that success comes when we accomplish those. When we memorize Joshua 1:8, it said that we need to meditate always on this book of the law. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. See, success has to do with being people of God's word who know it, and also it's accomplishing the goals that God has set for us to grow in. Number 17, a good goal is flexible. We need to recognize that goals can be adjusted, that there's nothing wrong with changing a goal if more information comes to light in your life. I shared with the class that a number of years back, I had a family come. Dad came and met with me. He said, "Hey, Tim, we feel like we need to go to church somewhere else. We're going to find something." I said, "Okay, tell me what's up." And he had brought in a goal sheet, kind of a vision sheet that we had developed for our church back in 2005. And in 2005, we as a church were dreaming about the future, about what God could have. And we had a dream of raising $1 million from within our congregation and borrowing $1 million and building an incredible building addition out in the front lawn. And we did so much work toward that and coming together as a family and doing a capital campaign. It was a 3-year giving campaign. And as we marched into that, there were two things that happened in the midst of that season that were unanticipated. One is that we had a very difficult church discipline situation in our church, and we had about 100 people leave the church over it. Kind of a circle of friends around this individual that had sinned and that we ended up putting under corrective church discipline and eventually removing them from church membership. And those friends were so upset and they all left together. Well, that took some momentum away from our campaign. Nonetheless, we were committed to it and we moved ahead in it. And we didn't get $1 million in pledges for that 3-year campaign. We ended up getting $730,000. So quite a bit. And what happened as we went through the coming 3 years in 2006 and 7 and 8 is that our country had an economic kind of a crash, a downturn in the market, such that funds became scarce. And we didn't end up getting the whole 730. We ended up getting about $500,000 given over that 3-year period. We didn't have enough money to build with. We weren't going to borrow any money when the economy took that downturn. And so we put that $500,000 in the bank and we just sat on it. And we did so for many years. And it was a tough thing to know. And every few years, somebody would say, why don't we use that money for this kind of mission project or for this kind of evangelism program? Or why don't we fix up the bathrooms? But our commitment as leaders always came back to in conversation, no, the money was given for expansion. We want to reserve it for expansion. We may not be able to build what we had initially dreamed, but we can do something. And eventually, in 2012, we took on the task of building Heritage Hall, much smaller than we had originally envisioned, yet we paid cash for it. We didn't have to borrow any money. It's become a great tool. That's an example of a goal that had to flex. Well, this guy who came in showed me that goal sheet, and he said, we haven't pursued all these things, and so we just feel like it's time for us to go somewhere else. And I thought, really? one of the things that is important to recognize is that good goals can be flexible. None of us are omniscient. We don't see the future. If you get halfway through a goal year or a goal season and the playing field is radically changed, then adjust your goal. They're not written in stone. They're not unchangeable like the Ten Commandments are. Number 18, our flesh always rebels against the law. Do not be surprised when you set a goal area and your internal motivation becomes contrary to that goal. That is a normal facet of life on earth. Our flesh will push back when we set goals. Good goals have a way of chafing against the flesh of our lives today. But we also recognize that a good goal is an expression of the desires of our heart. Here's the contrast between the flesh and the heart. Our heart longs for those good and wonderful changes and areas of growth in our life. And a good goal ought to be that expression of the desire of our heart. And yeah, you will struggle with goals, because we all do, but our heart ought to rule and win the day. Everything that we do, without exception, is in pursuit of a goal. You may not think of it that way. We may not be cognizant of that fact, but the reality is that we are always pursuing something. If your goal is to be a couch potato, you're going to have a lifestyle that ends up that way. If your goal is going to be in top physical shape, your behavior is going to move in that direction. And for people who don't make goals, because the average person can't identify goals in their lives, then it's no surprise that they end up pursuing default, easy, fleshly things. Most of the time, we live with goals that have been set by others and imposed on us rather than goals that we choose for ourselves. And what we're going to do together is chase that pursuit of goals. The problem in our life is often that we haven't identified the goals we are pursuing. Others set them for us, and they change all the time. And that's a formula for confusion, which can lead to discouragement, which makes us unmotivated and lukewarm. And so one of the great things about goals is that they will add spice to your life. They will give you enthusiasm and something to lean into. Number 22, God holds each of us responsible as stewards. And this would be the theological perspective that I would bring to goals. I think goals are an exercise of stewardship for us. God holds us responsible as stewards, and we must be faithful and self-controlled. Goal setting is a key to those pursuits. We want to be faithful, and a person who is faithful is one who makes and keeps promises. And on any given day, you have a quota of things that you do, of ways that your self-control could be measured. But when that quota is used up and your energy to demonstrate self-control has been evaporated in other things, you recognize that it's easy at that time to do the routine, to do the natural, to not pursue that which is good. And so to prepare yourself ahead of time, when you get in a certain situation that says, I'm going to be disciplined in this, I'm going to live according to my stated principles, I'm going to pursue the things that I have, I want to be planning ahead for the situations that I face in life. That is all what self-control is like. And if you want to be the kind of person who reads your Bible or who prays at the same time in the same place, or who meditates on Scripture or memorizes it, or who gives faithfully to God or serves others, all of those are things that grow with self-control, and goal setting is a key in living by self-control. Number 23, goal setting is functioning as we were designed to function best because of our being created in the image and likeness of God. You'll never become completely goal-oriented. You will learn to practice planning and premeditated thinking, and you'll be motivated by those areas of growth that are happening in your life, whether it be in a personal way or in your family or in your ministry or work life. But those are the kinds of things. It's like to be a fine working engine, to know how to do that, to operate on a highly precise and effective way. Writing down goals and pursuing them over a period of time will be a great help to you in that. In our notes that I shared in class, and let me come back to here. Notes that are shared in class, I've given you a page with one sample goal, my Bible reading goal. I wrote that out. And then an area for you to start jotting down 5 goal areas for yourself. On the back of that page, I note possible areas of personal goals and then a bunch of quotes that are intended to be a help to you. And so that's our focus for the week. I'm praying that God would bless us all as we pursue goals. Next week, we are memorizing the 3rd verse. A noble man makes noble plans, and by noble plans he stands. And then we'll be reading the next pages up through chapter 14 in Mathis, and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday night.